Welcome to Invictus Motors. We've got this Porsche 911 Turbo. This is the 997.1 Turbo, and ironically I've got a 911 here to my left, which is probably the beginning of an era. I would definitely say it's a beginning of the turbocharged era, but this is the end of an era of turbocharged 911s like no other, especially with that 3.6 litre Mezger engine. And in this review I'll just basically talk about and cover sort of the key facts. Ultimately, I think potentially in the Porsche 911 Turbo era, starting from sort of the mid-70s, where Porsche were one of the first companies to take up to putting in turbos in sports cars, and why this isn't really going to be much in terms of it being part of the video, but why it kind of became mainstream for Porsche, whether that be in the Caymans, in the Boxsters, for them to start putting them turbocharged and basically reducing the engine displacement and bogging twin turbos onto it and just enhancing them in every way possible. Ultimately, this is a car, if I've got to go out there and pick one as a dream car to keep, both from an investment point of view, both from just a driving and just purely an aesthetic, side of things, it doesn't really get better than this. Just the silhouette, the shape, the lines, the way it's designed, the way it handles, the way that power from the rear engine is, let out onto the four-wheel drive system. It's just phenomenal in every way, form or shape. And there's no way actually to present this any better than to actually take it out for a test drive, because that engine, once it starts up with the upgraded stainless steel exhaust system, just sounds so perfect. And with each gear change, it just makes me smile and brings me into life, really. And that's the best way to say it. So let's get into it. It's a satisfying feeling to get into any Porsche 911, let alone a 911 Turbo. And this, as kids growing up, this is the kind of a car that you would have on the wall, or on a poster, and you'll just kind of drool over it and kind of just simply imagine one day and just hear this beautiful start. The clutch, from what I can feel, has also been replaced recently, and you've got a beautiful biting point and a very responsive clutch. From what I'm aware on the clutch, it's had a lightweight clutch and a flywheel, so the way it changes is so responsive and just perfect. It's just there at a snap of a finger. And then also having the short shifter. Initially I wasn't really sure of the short shifter, but boy oh boy, it makes a difference, because when you really want to get into driving this a bit spiritedly, it just wants to impress and wants to do the business. bhp wise, this produces 480 brake horsepower, a phenomenal 620 newton meters of torque, and the 0 to 62 miles per hour possible in 3.9 seconds. The top speed being 193 miles per hour. And these speeds of less than 30 miles an hour around the village is very satisfying to do, because it just proves the point that this is very much a usable Porsche 911. And that is a rare thing to say. Should I say a supercar? Perhaps a sports car? But how many sports cars do you know that produces 480 brake horsepower, 620 newton meters of torque, and the 0 to 62 miles per hour in less than 4 seconds, and a top speed of 193 miles per hour? So I would say supercar territory, and definitely for a car that is now coming up to being 20 years old, that's ultimately a classic, is in its heydays would definitely have been a supercar. This has had no expenses spared. As I said, the clutch has been done, shock shifter, the RSS engine mount. It's had a new diff because the previous one had a slight leak. Overall, it's had everything you could ever possibly imagine. The tires have got, they're the right tires, N-rated, with loads of tread in it, and it's the sort of car that you just want to get into and not have to faff around or fuss around or worry about or think about. And even on days like this, you just want to get into it and drive it. Yes, it's wet, it's damp. It's a 911 turbo, 4-wheel drive. I'm really trying my best to be gentle on the accelerator. But I'll open it up now. Let me drop it to third. And that's 5,000 RPM, 4.5 in fourth gear. Just such precise handling, and every time you take one of these bends, it is just so well planted. It just doesn't lose even an inch of grip, or it's not sliding about where you might feel like there's a lack of confidence that you might have in this car. Not at all. Not at all. What I wanted to say is that this speaks for itself. Having had it now in stock for about sort of a week or so, every time I've wanted to do a trip somewhere or drive a car somewhere, and just that's going to lift up my mood and just lighten me up, this is what I've chosen. And I've even been a passenger at the back in it. Specification wise, this is finished in this gorgeous GT Carrera silver metallic paint color, and as I said, it's got the stainless steel sports exhaust system that just grunts as you hear it throughout the test drive. And you've got the rear wiper delete, so you've got a really nice clean look at the back. You've got the 19-inch 911 turbo wheels that are this beautifully diamond cut with sort of silver and grey on the inside. I touched onto the silhouette and just sort of the specification side of things. This has got the sunroof, and if I can just let you into the inside of it, you've got sort of 12-way electrically adjustable seats with lumbar support. They're also memory with Porsche crest. On the headrest, you've got the shock shifter, which also I touched on in the test drive, the sport steering wheel, and ultimately you've got the sport button, the PSM button, and this central bit here is finished in this piano inlay look, as well as the extended leather interior with the stitching on the dash the Chrono Sport Plus package, and Porsches are ultimately known to be quite practical with a 2+2 layout, so it's a nice sweet spot to have the ability to put somebody in at the back. And I've actually sitting at the back of this just to experience this with my colleague and my brother to take it out for a test drive, and it's just, again, exhilarating. And to kind of finish off on the outside spec side of things, if you come to the front of it, you've got the xenon headlights, and this just gives you better visibility when driving during the night. And it being the 911 turbo, everything just screams a little bit extreme, just from the front redesign, that side silhouette with the ducts here, that just gives extra cooling to the back of the engine there at the back. And if I could just kind of show you the engine and how perhaps that is laid out a little bit different to what you would find in the 3.6 litre 997.1s or the 3.8 litre 997.1s, and just the physical aesthetics of it, and seeing how much bulkier this Mezger engine setup is. And what sort of also enhances the test drive, which I kind of forgot to touch on, was the upgraded engine mounts there as well, the Porsche RSS engine mounts. Also the long life air filter. This is the aftermarket air filter, and all of these little variables enhances the performance, the exhaust system, the engine mounts, the air filter. And overall, this is probably one of the best examples of 911s that's been kept in very good condition. It's had basically all the money you could think of, and whenever it needed anything, it's had that done. So ultimately, it being a Mezger engine, yes, they're bulletproof. They're probably it's probably by far the most reliable engine Porsche has ever done. And it doesn't mean that you should not maintain it, and they do require maintenance over a long period of time, over a long period of ownership. And I always recommend, if you are owning a Porsche, is to sort of drive it at least 2 to 3 times a week, and just to give it those regular run-ins. So it's been a pleasure to talk about this car. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.